Leaving is not only a decision. Unhappy relationships can contain love, history, fear, money, family, and hope. Example: a person may know they're unhappy and still feel unable to move. Complexity keeps people stuck. People stay in unhappy relationships for many reasons: hope, fear, money, children, habit, loneliness, guilt, or safety concerns. People stay because they remember better moments and imagine they can return. Concrete case: one-kind weekend resets months of disappointment. Intermittent good moments can bind strongly. The pattern usually shows up in small daily choices before it becomes a bigger problem. Knowing the relationship hurts but lacking money or safe housing to leave. Being alone can feel more frightening than being unhappy. Daily version: someone chooses familiar pain over uncertain emptiness. Fear can outweigh dissatisfaction. The final point is this: staying in an unhappy relationship is rarely one reason. It is usually a knot of fear, hope, cost, and attachment. The link becomes clear when someone chooses familiar pain over uncertain emptiness. It shows why people stay in unhappy relationships, because love, fear, cost, hope, identity, and habit can pull in different directions. Rent, children, debt, or shared assets can make leaving difficult even when the relationship is emotionally painful. A partner may want to leave but cannot afford separate housing, childcare, legal advice, or a new routine all at once. Practical barriers do not mean the relationship is healthy. They mean the decision is tied to money, logistics, safety, and timing, as well as emotion. Identity is tied in. Long relationships become part of how people understand themselves. Real case: ending a marriage can feel like losing a life story. Loss is emotional and social. The clean takeaway is this: staying in an unhappy relationship is rarely one reason. It is usually a knot of fear, hope, cost, and attachment. Years invested can make leaving feel like wasting the past. Past investment cannot guarantee future health. The pattern usually shows up in small daily choices before it becomes a bigger problem. A pattern becomes easier to change once the trigger, feeling, and response are mapped separately. The problem becomes harder when a person stays because they already gave 10 years. The main lever is children complicate choices. Parents may fear harming children through separation. They may also underestimate harm from constant conflict. Child well-being needs honest assessment. The specific clue is knowing the relationship hurts but lacking money or safe housing to leave, which points back to hope, attachment, finances, housing, children, sunk cost, and fear. Family, culture, religion, or community can discourage leaving. Think of a person fears judgment more than private sadness. Outside voices can trap decisions. A familiar case is a person fears judgment more than private sadness. Some people believe they cannot find better or do not deserve better. Concrete case: mistreatment becomes normalized. Becomes a decision instead of a guess. The pattern becomes visible during stress, distance, repair, or unmet need. A real-life version is mistreatment becomes normalized. Trauma bonds can form. Cycles of hurt and repair can become addictive. In practice, pain followed by affection creates intense relief. Intensity is not the same as safety. Clarity about safety, support, and what is actually changing rather than vague advice. Change promises delay action is usually where the issue becomes visible. The partner promises therapy, sobriety, or effort after each crisis. Case: temporary improvement keeps hope alive. The lasting point is this: staying in an unhappy relationship is rarely one reason. It is usually a knot of fear, hope, cost, and attachment. Look for measurable clues. Separate love, dependency, obligation, safety, finances, and hope for change before judging the choice. Leaving may trigger anger, pleading, or family drama. Real case: Avoiding the breakup feels easier than facing the storm. Short-term peace can prolong pain. The simple version is this. Staying in an unhappy relationship is rarely one reason. It is usually a knot of fear, hope, cost, and attachment. Follow the visible clues. Separate love, dependency, obligation, safety, finances, and hope for change before judging the choice. A careful person would compare shared housing with children before deciding what the situation actually means. Safe exits may require money, documents, support, and timing. Notice this. Leaving impulsively is not always safe or possible. Planning can create freedom. The cost becomes visible when leaving impulsively is not always safe or possible. In everyday terms, children matters when it changes what someone spends, avoids, accepts, delays, or repeats. Not all unhappiness means leave. Some relationships improve with honest repair and mutual effort. Daily version. Two willing partners can rebuild after neglect. Look for accountability on both sides. The useful ending is this. Staying in an unhappy relationship is rarely one reason. It is usually a knot of fear, hope, cost, and attachment. The difference between financial fear and fear of loneliness can explain why two similar situations lead to different outcomes. This starts with one-sided effort fails. A relationship cannot be saved by one person alone. In practice, reading books and communicating better will not fix a partner who refuses change. The clearest summary is this. Staying in an unhappy relationship is rarely one reason. It is usually a knot of fear, hope, cost, and attachment. The pattern becomes visible during stress, distance, repair, or unmet need. The topic becomes real when hope for change affects the next choice, bill, conversation, or risk. Trusted friends, counselors, or legal advice can clarify options. Saying the truth out loud can break denial because it turns a private loop into something that can be examined. Understanding the reasons people stay does not excuse harm, but it makes the situation more realistic and less judgmental. An unhappy relationship can still contain love, loyalty, memories, shared bills, social pressure, and fear of starting over. Real support starts by seeing all of those forces clearly, not by shaming someone for moving slowly. Do not judge only by the worst day or best day. Look at months of behavior, repair, respect, and safety. The pattern is easiest to handle before it takes over. A real-life version is look at months of behavior, repair, respect, and safety. The pattern becomes clearer when read when fear of loneliness is treated as evidence, not background noise. People stay in unhappy relationships for emotional, financial, social, hopeful, fearful, or practical reasons. Understanding those reasons does not mean pretending the pain is fine. It means change usually requires safety, clarity, support, and a plan, not just the instruction to leave. People stay in unhappy relationships because emotional bonds and practical costs can point in opposite directions. A shared home, children, finances, family expectations, guilt, hope, and fear of loneliness can all slow the decision to leave. People stay in unhappy relationships for more than one reason. Love may still exist, but so may fear, shared history, children, finances, guilt, hope, and uncertainty about life after leaving. A familiar case is knowing the relationship hurts but lacking money or safe housing to leave. Staying in an unhappy relationship can be painful and still make emotional sense. That mixture explains why the decision is often slow, private, and emotionally confusing from the outside. Understanding that mix does not tell anyone what to do. It simply explains why leaving can be emotionally and practically complicated even when the unhappiness is real. Love, fear, money, children, guilt, shared history, hope, and uncertainty can all pull in different directions at the same time. The issue becomes clearer when staying is seen as a conflict of pressures, not simply a lack of courage.